I will call the meeting to order. Please join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everybody. We'll start with the roll call.
Weber,
Here.
Houston is excused. Hannah?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Pursader?
Here.
O'Laughlin?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Next, I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we move to the public comment. This is for public comment for things other than the water and sewer rates. Is there anybody that's here to talk about something other than that? Okay, hearing none, we move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following: the minutes of the August 12, 2024 regular meeting, the Pat's Tap Class C retail alcohol license renewal application that includes living quarters and outdoor service effective September 1, 2024 through August 31, 2025, the bow hunting request from Kevin Zachary and Lucas Seidels for the 2024-2025 bow hunting season. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we move to the financials. I need a motion to approve the claims for payment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion with regard to that? Any questions anybody has? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we move to the bank reconciliation. Again, this is for information only. Is there anybody that has any questions or comments with regard to that? Hearing none, we'll move to item 8, which is the revenues and expenses to date. Again, this is information only. Anybody have anything with regard to the revenues and expenses? Hearing none, we move to item number 9, which is the transfers. Again, this is information only. Anybody have any questions with regard to the transfers? Hearing none, we move to item number 10. Pursuant to the agenda, I'll now convene a public hearing on the proposed amendment pertaining to Code Section 1.15 fines and fees schedule, specifically the water and sewer fees. Ms. Davis, did you want to start us off?
A long time since I've been here. Anytime I see something that I'm going to have my expenses increase by 10%, I get a lot of red flags go up because I'm on a fixed income and Social Security doesn't go up that kind of amount even yearly. I'm a little confused because the way it was presented was almost like replacing our wastewater plant was like an emergency that we didn't know anything about, and so now all of a sudden we suddenly have to raise all our prices and the people have to start paying for this because it has to get done. I know it has to get done. But this was brought up when I was in office, and 2 of your council members were on the board at that time, and I know we brought it up, and at one point you guys approved a set aside of about $1 million to go towards that bill. We discussed about gradually increasing rates so it wouldn't be such a shock of a 10% increase. Not sure what happened to all those plans. It's been a few years, but there needs to be an explanation of what happened to those dollars, if they're still available, what happened to why we didn't do this gradually, and had something in there about looking for grants. Didn't mention what kind of grants. I know that's something you always rely on, and it has got us through a lot of activities over the years and accomplished a lot of things for this community, but I'm not sure what grants are out there. Wonder about bonding, whether you can do any bonding that would help do that, so it takes a load off of the taxpayers and the citizens. Not sure how you're basing this 10%. There wasn't a lot of good explanation as to where you came up with this number, just like 10% was a nice round number, so let's go with that. 10% is a big round number for my income. Got a nice surprise when I got my property thing, that my property taxes have gone down. I thank you for anything you might have done to help that. But a 10% increase in my water and sewer thing will eat up all that I just gained from my property taxes. So it's kind of still trying to keep the balls in the air. So there's not a lot of good explanation. I think there needs to be something more public on this. What we need to do, there need to be explanation as to why this hasn't been taken care of gradually over the last several years. I realize I haven't been here to actually watch you guys or what you're doing to compliment you on the good things or complain about the old, but this one did catch my eye. So I decided no matter how hot it was outside, I was still going to get here one way or another. So apologize if this is not something you want to hear. I know you have to have 3 readings, so I hope that if you even pass the first reading tonight, that you get on this and do something to make this better for the citizens, because this is not going to be, a lot of people are not going to be able to handle this. And I don't know what happens if we don't pay the bill. Do you shut off our sewer so we can't flush the stool anymore, or how does that, what happens there? It's kind of, I mean, usually you have a legal aspect or something, so I'm not sure in this case what goes or happens. So I just wanted to get my 2 cents in there. I'm sure there's a lot of other people. For some reason, people still call me. I still even get called mayor when I'm in town at different times. But I can't answer questions anymore. I'm not involved. You guys are the important people. I know the council's more important, even the mayor is. Experienced that for 8 years since you don't have a vote. So I hope you look at some other opportunities, possibly even get a citizens task force together to look into this, to see what might be a better alternative, a less problem for people. I don't have a solution. I wish I did. I don't like to complain without having an idea of how to fix it. And in this case, I don't have. I apologize for that. But I do hope that even if you pass the first reading tonight, that you spend a little time before we get to the second, third reading in order to take care of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Bonnie.
What's the last name? Yolanda, I can't read your last name, I'm sorry.
Shelley. She asked a lot of my questions, so I'm going to pass if I can.
Okay, Ryan?
I'm Ryan Nielsen, President of Wapsie Valley Creamery. We're the largest single ratepayer for the wastewater treatment plant in Independence. So this directly impacts our business and our operations. So I have a few questions. I know I appreciate Matt and Travis's transparency with us over time and explaining the environmental regulations, how the current plant doesn't meet the new regulations going forward and the age of the plant. And I understand that we need to do something with the wastewater plant, but it seems like a very expensive option. And I just wanted to make sure that the city's, for residential and industrial users of the wastewater plant, have you tried to make every effort possible to keep the cost of this system down, and how important that is to us? And I did a little bit of research with other city municipality rates, and it seems like we're going to be definitely on the high side. And as a business person, and trying to attract new business to town, that's something that we need to keep in mind. If there's another town 30 miles away that has much better utilities or much better rates, it's going to be very difficult for Independence to attract businesses to town. So I want you guys to keep that in mind, that we have to be competitive. We've gone through, the pet food plant has gone through 3 or 4 different owners in the last 10 some years. And, when they're shut down and not operating, they're not paying any fees into this sewer plant, but they still have reserved capacity. We're here operating 6 or 7 days a week and are always paying into it. I guess I just feel like please keep that in mind, that we've been here a long time, we want to be here, but we also need to keep rates reasonable for a business side of things. And what else did I have? I guess, is there any kind of review been done on other cities or other towns and what their rates are, and how we compare, and how do those other towns, are they able to keep their rates lower than independents? And I guess I've also brought up to the city wastewater treatment people and the engineers, I think Strand Associates, about, we get a lot of customer inquiries about sustainability, and there's a large initiative for a lot of dairy producers and dairy plants to generate biogas or methane gas that they then generate electricity or heat with. And I think I've brought it up a few times. By the time our waste gets to the sewer treatment plant, it's too diluted and it's not economical. But I guess I just want to put out there that we're very open to working with the wastewater plant, and if we could maybe generate biogas at our site and send wastewater that's not as strong, and they could have a smaller wastewater plant. We just want to bring up all the different, make sure all the options are brought up, and if there's any way we can save money. Nobody wants to put additional resources into this plant, and I hope that when we put any new equipment, it's more efficient, or we get more, it costs less to run it per unit or things like that. Is this new plant going to be more efficient than the current one we have now as far as expenses, repairs, and labor and chemical usage, or different things? Make sure that we're being economical for the long run. So I hope you guys have those discussions, and we're open to working with people, and we want to keep the rates low for everybody in town.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Somebody else, that's all I have on the list. Is there somebody else that wanted to speak on this? Need you to state your full name.
My name is Cassandra Hare, and I live on the northeast side of town. I'm concerned because by 2027, we will have a 41% increase on our sewer and then a 3% annual on our water usage. This is a $48 million project that is being spoken about, and every year after 2027, that will only create $4 million from the profit of this. So how many years is that going to take for us as a community to be able to purchase this new water waste treatment plant? I can tell you right now, I'm standing here for the people who are fighting to make ends meet with the increases in our gas stations, our supermarkets, people who are working day in, day out, 2-3 jobs a day, just to eat one nutritious meal a day and pay their bills. How is this going to affect our community as a whole, not just businesses, but residential as well? It's like people are on fixed incomes, even people who are making money every day. We need to explore every single option that is out there. And if you guys have explored all of these options, are you going to make these public notice? I have a lot of concerns. I was planning on buying here. I am currently living with my parents, looking to buy in the town of Independence, and this makes me not want to buy here. I am young and have a lot of things to evaluate moving forward, and I just don't want to see this hurt our community as a whole. And I want to make sure that all opportunities have been explored, not just increasing this much. And like she said that it was spoken on before years ago, is that going to be public knowledge on what happened that way? I definitely am concerned about that. We knew 50 years ago we were going to need another one. Why hasn't City Council been discussing this over time and increasing little by little instead of such a giant increase in such a short amount of time? I believe it should be spread out, and if it is absolutely necessary, what are other opportunities we can create or find that our community can help to make this not so drastic and not hurt people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there someone else? Yes.
Good evening. Julie Clammer. I live over here on the northeast side also. I kind of spent yesterday going over some of the videotapes from prior city council meetings. And it really surprised me because August 8th of 2022 was when you guys brought up the idea of signing a contract for the blueprints. Mr. O'Laughlin, you sat back and said, we have to pay for that and all of our prior commitments. That's really going to hurt us. Who was the prior city council? The city manager?
Al Roeder.
Al Roeder said yes. I don't know why you guys don't listen to each other. You were on the right track 2 years ago. That this, in this community, should have been brought up and started balancing a budget to be prepared for this, rather than waiting till the last minute and then piling all of this on us at one time. That hurts our community, especially after raising our property taxes last week. I would hope in the future that if there's any future plans for this town, and a city council member, a city manager, a mayor, or a resident of Independence makes any kind of a comment, that people start listening to each other, because there's really no excuse to be dumping all this on this community at one time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, then I'll now close the public hearing, and the city clerk will take note of all comments in the record. Move to item number 11. I need a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance amending the provisions pertaining to fines and fee schedule.
I make a motion that we table this until after our next set work session and bring up the vote on our meeting after that.
Is there a second?
Second.
That would be a roll call vote then on whether or not to table it.
Hold on, I'm getting it.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
No discussion?
On tabling it? We can have discussion on tabling it, sure.
Okay. The reason I asked that question is we have to go through 2 more readings. We have talked many different times about things on this. Yes, it was brought up in the past. Yes, we have a major expense. We have tried for grants already, but there's many grants that we cannot do until we have all of our final numbers in engineering and everything of that sort. So I am not in favor of holding off on the first reading, because we do have 2 more readings to go through. And we need to do something, and we can have a lot of discussion about it in the work session. So I am not in favor of tabling myself on a vote.
The reason I ask for to be tabled is because these people are upset enough about the raise on this, but I can look at property taxes. We don't know what they're going to do for our next year. We have an EMS service that we want to vote on and get that in at 75 cents per 1,000. We're talking about something different with the fire station. We've been putting in quite a bit of money into premium foods, wage increases for city workers. So you had all that and everything else that we do, our street improvements. If people have the right to be upset about this, but if they're upset about this and we had all these other things without a discussion, we can all vote and say, yeah, let's go ahead and do the treatment plan service. And then the next time we ask about one of these things I just brought up, and do we vote yes on that? Or how do we do it? I think we should know far enough ahead, prioritize these things and which ones we really need and do. We can't sit here every week and vote on all that stuff. And where's the money come from?
Anybody else have comments with regard to the the tabling issue only.
I understand your concern, Deb, and I share the same concern, but the sewer plant's worn out. We've got
It
to
is.
replace it. We know that it's not going to get any cheaper if we wait. But we've already gotten the bid. Hopefully, it won't be as large a bill as, we're planning for the worst and hope for the best.
Actually, Mike, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we don't actually have a bid because it doesn't go, it goes
Right.
out to bid.
What we have
Right.
now is the.
I shouldn't say bid, excuse me, the engineer's estimate of cost.
Estimate.
You still have, you have an estimate, which we didn't have
We have
before.
an estimate, so and in order to qualify for the funding, SRF funding, we have to have rates in place that produce enough revenue to assure them that we have the money to pay the bill, the monthly, our monthly debt on that. And, we've tabled it in the past. I think it's time.
What's a couple weeks?
Huh?
What's a couple weeks to have a discussion and stuff?
But what more can we discuss? We know we got to have it. We know the estimate of cost. We know when we've already, we've planned this. We've had Strand on a line for over a year.
We have a work session coming up for
We
next.
plan that, but as people say, we haven't planned for the money part, the most important part.
Third Tuesday.
Tuesday.
But even if we wait 2 weeks, it's not going to change the,
Yeah, that's just my thought.
sure,
Further discussion?
I disagree. Thank you.
Okay, call for a vote then.
Okay. So I already have Hannah. Moore.
No.
Okay. Crusader.
No.
O'Laughlin.
No.
Jensen.
No.
Weber.
Yes.
It fails in terms of tabling. What?
Oh, yeah, never mind.
I do have
Never
a,
mind.
Just one sec, let's stay on track here. Okay, we had a motion and a second, correct?
Yes, I motion second, yeah, sorry.
Okay, what I'd like to do is, Matt, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot here, a lot of this stuff, the questions that were asked in the public hearing and other things, you have answers to, some of it anyway.
Just some of it, yeah.
So maybe if you started and provided some basic factual information.
So there's been questions about whether or not we're putting any cash towards this project, whether or not there was a fund balance there that could be used towards this. The sewer utility fund does have a very healthy balance in it at the moment. The way that the financial advisors that we work with on this had this set up was there's a $3.77 million cash payment towards the $43 million project out of that sewer utility fund. That remains, that leaves approximately $4.5 million in that fund, which we have to keep a balance in that fund because we have a large pump station in town that pumps everything to the treatment plant. If we were to have a large catastrophic failure at that pump station, we've got to have the money to fix that immediately. So that's some of the answer to that. It doesn't answer everything, and I don't have the answers as far as what those rate increases, how those rate increases, where that money went. I know that it went in the enterprise fund, the sewer utility fund, but as far as where it went from there, I assume it was used for operating in the plant and the sewer collection system. And that's the only thing we can use those dollars for.
The plant itself we borrowed $4 million 6 years ago in order to limp us through. You remember that?
I'll get there.
So that's where part of the enterprise fund has gone to make,
Yeah, because we have debt
rectify
payments.
that debt.
Yeah, we have debt payments that we have to make on that.
Go ahead, Matt.
The increases, there was a question asked tonight about the increase, these 10%, 15% increases that we're talking about. Those were recommended based on the analysis of our current income by our financial advisors. We use a group called Spear Financial that helps us analyze those things. And we are required to keep a factor of 1.1, meaning we have to have 10% more revenue coming in than we have debt going out in order to qualify for the state's revolving fund. So those percentages are needed in order to keep that 1.1 ratio in place. I spent some time this morning looking at different scenarios, trying to figure out if there's ways that we could spread that out, ways that we could do different things. Unfortunately, the only scenario I came up with was no increase this year and a really large 20-some% increase next year. Well, that just kicks the can down the road. That doesn't feel like that's the right thing to do. So anyway, and then I looked at if we tried to put more cash towards it out of the reserves, would that help? We could lower the percentage maybe 1 or so points, but it really doesn't affect, it's not enough because this is a huge project. $43 million is a large, large project. I would venture to say it's probably the largest project in the history of this city. It may be the largest for quite a long time. So to give you some more stuff, Travis and I talked today a little bit about sewer services. I know that there had been a question what our average bill was. Our average bill is around $71 a month. That includes, though, all of our industrial and commercial users. And thank you, Ryan, for coming in and speaking. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your conversation back and forth with me as we've talked through stuff. You know, what the creamery puts towards or pays into us is a large amount, enough that it skews the average bill from what we think is around $45 to $50 a month all the way up to that $71 a month rate. So that should tell you that the industry is, I mean, their creamery especially is paying a lot of money in for sewer for us. But if you calculate out this based on an average use of about 3,000 gallons of water a month, the sewer bill will be going up $3.87 with this 10% increase a month, based on a 3,000 gallon usage. And I want to make clear too, none of this is based on property valuation. I know there's been some comments and some questions going around on social media about that. It is all based on usage. So whatever you use as far as water, that's what you pay based on. It doesn't have anything to do with the value of your house or property taxes or any of that. That's the very nature of an enterprise fund. It has to be based on usage. On the water side, to be clear, I wanted to make sure I included that. The 3% increase would amount to 69 cents per month on your water bill. So cumulatively together, you're talking about $4.56 a month if you're using around 3,000 gallons of water. Now, obviously, if you use 6,000 gallons, I've got 2 teenagers at home, so I use double that. Obviously, that amount is more. So that's where we are with those rates. As far as the timeline, Mike had talked about Councilman O'Laughlin had talked about a project we did back in 2018. I wanted to give some clarity on that too. The plant was initially built in 1978. In 1998, there was a biosolids handling project that was done. I don't have a lot of information, and Travis, I don't know if you want to come up and speak to this at some point, but I don't know exactly what all was done in that project, but I know that was the first time that there was modification to the plant. So that's a 20-year span between there. And then in 2003, there was addition of the trickling filter to increase plant capacity, and it also included upgrades in the headworks building. And then in 2018 was the project that Councilman O'Laughlin was talking about. That was a miscellaneous project that was intended to make improvements to the plant so that the plant could operate and continue to function until we could get the things together to replace it. A couple things to consider related to the new plant. Our current NPDES discharge permit from, I believe the DNR is who issues that permit, Travis?
Yes.
Thank you. Requires implementation of a nutrient strategy and includes a compliance schedule which shows construction of the new plant being completed by July 1st, 2026. Obviously, we know that that's not going to happen. July 1st, 2026 is unrealistic at this point. The NPDES permit will be reissued in 2025, and when that's done, we will have to do a new compliance schedule because of that. The engineers think that there's going to be a 2-year construction period for the complete replacement of this plant. So that's going to have to be negotiated or done as part of that. But that's one of the driving factors behind this replacement is that we have to meet the guidelines that the state and the EPA tell us, and we have a process in place to get there. And I don't know that I want to say that we don't meet them today, but I think there's some concern that we've got to do something so that we can continue to meet what they're asking of us. The trickling filter plant that we have doesn't remove adequate levels of ammonia, total nitrogen, or phosphorus. That's one of the main reasons that we need a new plant. There's existing structures planned to be maintained during construction, like the screening building, the sludge storage tank, and the administration building. Those are all items that we're trying to do as far as the cost savings we're not just razzing the entire site and building a new plant. We're trying to keep some of the existing stuff that's there and reuse what we can. And then also the existing pump building and chlorination basin are going to be converted for use with the new system, which is an oxidation ditch, which is more able to remove these nutrients that we need to remove. So does that give you some more background?
Absolutely. Travis, is there something you can share with us as well, or did he cover what you?
I can come up, but that pretty well took care of it.
Okay.
Travis has been great. We've been working together on answering questions. We looked through things this morning and I've been trying to respond to people on Facebook as I'm able to try to help get the information out there. I mean, that's You and I had the conversation last week about putting this out because we wanted to get it out there in front of the public and make sure that this was out, that, it's a major impact. We get that.
Maybe talk about the Strand and how far into the project we are, what they're doing, and then about
So we're
the
to
funding
the
sources
point.
we currently have and are trying to have.
Sure. So we're to the point now with Strand where they've submitted, I believe, Travis, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they've submitted the plans to the DNR for review. And we're in the review process on that.
Yes.
That's what my recollection, memory off the top of my head is telling me, but I don't trust it anymore.
Yes, they're in the review process of DNR. They had to go 85 to 90%, I believe it's either 85 or 90. They sent it to the DNR for review.
Right. But we're planning to bid this thing in this fall, in December
Yes,
or
it'd be
so.
the end of this year, latest first part of.
So that's the other thing I think it's important to keep in mind is if we bid this and bids come in at 35 instead of 43, we will recalculate the numbers. And if that means that 16% can be reduced to 14, we will. But it's all based on math. There's not a lot of leeway here for us just to make judgment calls. And these rates are not being decided on based on because they feel like a good number. It's what the math is telling us we have to have.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but the numbers that we came up with, that you guys came up with, and the advisory committee, was based on the worst-case scenario.
Correct.
And these numbers, rather than not raising a water bill at this time and putting it off until a completion factor of when the water treatment plant would be completed, if it goes through and we are able to do it, all of a sudden, instead of a little trickling each year, which helps contribute to 3-4 years down the road when it would actually be completed, all of a sudden you get nailed with a 50, 60, 70% water bill increase. You're upset now, you're really gonna be upset then.
Right.
And the question was, where did money go from previous? I've only been back in town 2 years, but I have heard over the last year and a half from different people that I've talked to, that this is a potential thing down the road. It's got to be done sometime. We're not sure yet, but it's in discussion phases. And they said, well, this was talked about 8-10 years ago, how this plant is on its last leg and it's going to fall apart pretty soon, is what I've been told by citizens of this community. And like I say, I've only been back 2 years. Matt's only been here roughly 2 years.
Year and a half.
A year and a half. And the thing of it is I do go out and about the town a lot and talk to a lot of people. And I make a lot of my decisions based on what I hear from citizens. And I do talk to a lot of citizens in this community from all over this valley because I'm at large. I'm not just a ward or a precinct. And when I heard that, I go, well, if they knew this then, why weren't they setting some money aside if they knew it was going to fail? Well, we don't know what happened. Well, I don't know what happened either. I wasn't here. But I do know this. It's going to hurt every one of us that's set up here on the table. It's going to hurt us. It's hurting you people. Taxes, my taxes just went up almost $400 from last year to this year. It hurts. However, this is an item that, as far as I'm concerned, is a top priority for this community if you want to see this community survive and expand and take care of the situation for our citizens. So I am 100% in favor of this. And that's all I got to say at this time.
I can.
Just 1 second. Let's finish with Travis first, and then we'll move on to.
Oh, I thought you were done, Travis. I'm sorry.
No, I can add on there too, that it is worst case scenario. Right now, correct me if I'm wrong, we have our current operating budget on top of that we have to meet, and that money is in there. I would like to think that when this new plant comes in, those expenses should go down. Right now, they're only getting greater and greater every year as.
So our sewer, for the treatment plant and the collection system, we are running right around $2.2 million is what it takes from a budget perspective to run those facilities. Now that's collection and the plant. So that's, your main replacements, your slip lining, all the different things that go into that. The debt payment on this note alone is $2.65 million. So the debt payment for this project is going to exceed what our operating budget is already. And we're going to more than double the treatment plants and the sewer systems budget just by doing this. And I do want to point out too, I mean, the 43 million that's what we have been told the estimate is right now from the engineers. The way that this was all structured, and I want to, for everybody that's watching and here as well, if you go back to the work session from last work session in August, the spreadsheet was attached that shows how these percentages are calculated and where all those charges are at and how it's all done. I mean, everything is out there. And, when you look at that, it's just a ton of money. There's no way around it. And this spreadsheet was based on a $39,290,000 sewer revenue loan from the state of Iowa revolving fund. So, and that includes down towards the bottom, there's a drawdown of cash of the 3.77 million that I talked about earlier. So we can try to draw that cash down a little bit further and maybe put another couple million towards it. But like I said, it doesn't really make a lot of difference when you're talking about this size of a project. It's like 1% more, it's not enough. So it's weird when you're talking about millions of dollars and it's 1%, right?
Right, exactly. Travis?
Yeah, no, I was just continuing with the operation and maintenance costs. I would think they would go down significantly. I don't want to say significantly, but every year it gets greater and greater as this equipment gets older. That 2018 project, it's nicknamed as the Band-Aid project. It was in place to get us by, to get to the new plant, and that was 6 years ago, and they figured that would last 10 max. And by the time we finish the design, get it out to bid and built, that's going to put us right on the 10 years.
When did we first start talking to engineers about the project? I mean, not hired Strand, but even before that, how long has that been?
That's been about 2 years ago. It was part of the nutrient reduction strategy that we were required by the DNR, and that assesses the condition of your plant along with it was in place for every 5 years. We talk about not being able to treat. Yes, we are meeting all of our limits now. We will not be able to in the future with the nutrient or the nitrogen and phosphorus limits that the DNR is putting on, and this is statewide. You're seeing a lot of communities around the state of Iowa going through this, especially people that had lagoons in the past having to build mechanical plants. So we aren't the only community around having to figure out this funding. But
There's been discussion about grants or looking for funding, and
So
what have we done?
I can walk through some of that. So we've applied, Ashley Henson's office does a community projects, I think is what it's called, their grant process, and we've applied with them. The initial application that I put in was for $10 million. They came back and said, well, we'll put you through for 4. And then about 2 weeks ago or so, they came back and said, well, your 4 now became 2. It's in there. If the bill gets passed and everything goes through at the federal level, there'll be a couple $1 million there to help us. It helps, but it's $2 million that our citizens obviously don't have to pay that way. But we also won't know the final outcome of that until sometime in the spring, more than likely. The last appropriations bill they did, I don't think was final until March or April.
April.
Yeah, so, and then you also have the political aspect of an election occurring in the middle of that, and does that then change those appropriations entirely? So that's one. I know Councilman O'Loughlin's talked with federal representatives about it, tried to figure out, ways that we can get additional assistance. We've talked to the state about it. I had a meeting at one point with an EPA representative about their clean water fund, and unfortunately, it just doesn't, every time we think we find one that might work, it doesn't work out.
Exactly.
For a variety of different reasons.
Okay.
So then we keep falling back to the state's revolving fund as the mechanism.
How would the state's revolving fund work for us?
So that's basically who gives us the cash to pay for the project. And then we turn around and make payments back to them. They operate as a bank, essentially, in this scenario. There's an interest charge on it, but it's relatively low in terms of if we were to bond it ourselves, it would be more interest than what the state's revolving fund is. The other thing to keep in mind too is, this is a huge project. $39 million of debt feels like a huge burden. I can't even fathom that on the personal side, but anyway, it's a huge burden from that perspective, but it does not count against our debt limit, our statute, our constitutional debt limit that every city in the state of Iowa has, because it's paid for by enterprise funds. There's a specific dedicated funding source that makes the payment, then it doesn't count against your debt limit. General obligation debt does, because you're using generally property taxes to pay for that.
Thanks, Matt. Travis, unless you have something else, I'll start moving to council members.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Brian?
Thank you, Travis.
We'll go next.
Yeah, I want to bring up one thing. I want to address, and I apologize, Cassandra and also Bonnie. One of the things that you guys brought up that was a concern, and it's absolutely a valid concern, but I want to try to explain it to you because I think a lot of people have that question as well, is why didn't we try to do something else before, right? Pre this announcement, so to speak. And I guess I just want to make clear that one of the main changes and reasons for this new waters treatment plant is because it isn't apples to apples when we're talking about what we're trying to work with. As something nobody likes to talk about, right? We just flush it down the drain, so to speak. Sanitation has evolved over the last 50 years. We all know the Department of Natural Resources has evolved over the past 50 years. So now we're dealing with new equipment that we no longer, honestly, we're buying parts off eBay to run our water treatment plant, no different than if we had a classic car we were working on. It just isn't being made anymore, and those parts are no longer available. So we have to figure out, do we buy a new car that also conforms to EPA, Department of Natural Resources, things like that. So I just want to put that out there for the two of you asking that tonight, and everybody watching that says, well, why can't we continue on with what we have and just fix it? Why do we have to, have this enormous burden placed on us now? Is we have bought all the used parts we can buy for our treatment plant that we currently have, unfortunately. And coupled with what Councilman Moore said, it hits us too. I mean, I sat, and Cassandra said it, Bonnie, you did too. Why are we just hearing about it now? I wish we were just hearing about it now, because it's given us all stomach acid for a year, basically, that we've been talking about this. And this is in no way a thumb at anybody, but please, it does seem like something that just happened to you guys. We have been talking about this in our work sessions that are open to the public. They don't get promoted as much, and Mayor and City Manager Smith as well. Thank you for putting out the additional information on top of people being able to come and see, because just like it caught you guys off guard, it was at least it was a little more information that tried to detail that. But I wanted to put out there, we're not dealing with our water treatment plant anymore because we can't. We have to replace this with something. And we went through, I believe initially there was 5 different options for us to look at. Believe it or not, this is the least. It has a lot of green concepts to it, because that's so important now, especially from that Department of Natural Resources aspect.
We kept some pieces though.
Anytime you go green, it does cost a little bit, because we kind of had the diesel truck of before, and now we're trying to get a little more to the electric car version and balance that. So hopefully that at least makes a little bit of sense as to why we're unable to continue on with what we currently have.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Nothing? No, thank you.
Well, I've given my ideas.
No, I appreciate it. I thought you said no thank you to the entire deal.
I do have one question, and it was something that Ryan had said about the biogas and the methane gas. Is that something that's even something we could take a look at, maybe talk about at our next session?
We'd need to talk with the engineers about it from Strand and find out if it would, the million-dollar question in my mind there is, what would it do to the loadings at the plant, and is it beneficial in that scenario? I mean, I'd love to talk through that idea with you more, Ryan, and figure out if there's a way we can, because if we can generate partnerships like that work better for all of us, that's definitely the way to go. I know you guys have kind of a pre-treatment, wastewater I think you have some pre-treatment that's occurring there, or we've talked about.
Equalize the flow.
Yeah.
So it's even all day.
And then I think IPF has some pre-treatment on site there. But I mean, I think there's some ways that we can look at that and see if what makes more sense for you. Does it make sense to keep paying us to handle that, or does it make sense for you guys to invest the capital to build something there that kind of pre-treats it before it comes to us? I'm happy to look through that and work through that.
Is it worth having somebody from Strand meet with them, or have some type of a work
I think we
session where
can.
they both come, or?
Travis, go ahead. Come on up. I think we can. Strand had individual meetings with all of the industrial users in town.
I was just curious as to would that loading be coming to us for us to make the methane gas? Is that what you're?
I'm open to whatever, I mean, I think it's, we
Are-
can make the natural gas and burner or boiler at the plant, you know, that's 50 feet away, or you guys could burn it down at the sewer plant.
Okay, because the new process will go from we're currently anaerobic and we'd have that ability, but right now it's not, it's a very expensive process and it's not feasible for what we've had. In the past, they did try and run an engine off that, and the siloxane and the gas was burning through the heads of the engine. It was very expensive. The filter, to filter that gas out.
Clarify, if you would, clarify anaerobic means no oxygen in the process?
Okay, so yes, anaerobic, yes, no oxygen in the process, it's closed, it creates that gas. Our new system will go from anaerobic to aerobic, so that would, as far as producing gas, we would not have the option to do it out there.
Well, that's why I'm thinking if we were going to do something like that, it'd be trying to help you guys at your plant come up with a way to do it there. And it makes more sense to honestly do it there because you can reuse it to run parts of your plant.
I just feel like there's got to be some kind of renewable Green New Deal grant out there, whatever, money out there.
If you happen to find one, I would love to hear about it.
I don't know, I don't look at that as much as you do.
Understood. Understood. Seems like an everyday occurrence for me, so, yeah.
He's looking all the time.
I will say through this design process, the engineers did look at the anaerobic process that we have now and the amount of gas that we produce and the amount of gas we produce for what it costs to run anaerobic. It wasn't feasible to do.
I remember discussing that.
But it might be for like a business, I guess.
In-house, I would think it would be for them. I don't know. I don't know
I'd
what.
have to hire somebody to read like Strange to look at it. so
Right.
it makes sense.
Yeah, I just know our current design has switched from the anaerobic to the aerobic.
Right.
Well, I remember 2 years ago when we were first talking about this, and we had the 5 engineers come in and do their presentations and stuff, and they were all kinds of different ideas. It was not just everybody with the same idea, with the same process, with the same amount of money. It was lots of different ideas, and, you know, we selected what we thought was the best idea at the time.
Yes, yeah, we did look at some newer processes around, but we couldn't, I mean, the oxidation ditch it's true. It's
Tried and true.
Yes. We know it's going to do everything we want. It'll help with the loadings that we get out to the plant, as well as spikes and flows.
And there's
You know,
fewer moving
river.
parts. Fewer moving parts.
Yeah, there'll be a lot less pumps, and so I'll be curious to see when we get the new plan. Obviously, we'll have to be able to see, it'll have to operate for a matter of time, but to do an energy analysis afterwards to see where we're at.
Yep.
So the other word, can I?
Yeah, go,
because you
Catherine.
probably will have to answer this also, but expansion, everybody always asks about, okay, you're building a new plant. Is it going to work if we have any expansion?
Well, that's a good question. Travis, talk to her about how much greater this is going to be in terms of what's available for us in the future.
Yes, this will allow for plenty of expansion. Trying to figure out how to explain. The oxidation ditch is able to handle a lot more. Right now, it's where they're going through the numbers to see what kind of loadings we're predicting. That's why we've met with the industries, and they've looked at all that and where they put the numbers at where we want the plant rated. Trying to think how to explain that. I mean,
Well, so-
it'll be for our effluent limits. The higher loadings that we put on our permit or our plant design, the more stringent effluent
right.
limits we get put at.
As I said, that's what I remember from talking with Strand, is
So-
the higher we rate the plant, the more stringent the limits are.
Yes.
So you kind
And
of,
that is something that can be adjusted if it gets to where we're getting close to where the limits they give us now are. We are able to go back to the DNR, reevaluate it, and add more limits to that current plant. And they also are setting up, they've gone through and they have it set up very nicely with the ground layout that we have, that if we get to the point that what we have or building now needs additions, there is an open area for another oxidation ditch. They have open space for another clarifier. There's a space for another holding tank should we need another digester. That's all laid out for future development. So this has been very well thought out.
So have we, just following with what you had said, have we kind of, which I don't know that I'd know if I was looking at it just as a layperson, but have we kind of put the plan out there as far as what this should look like when it's?
Yeah, the plans are done, is my understanding. We're waiting for approval on it. And as soon as we get the approval, we'll send it out for bid, and hopefully we'll get some bids that are much lower than what we're anticipating, worst case scenario.
Then can we get that so that people can see this is what it's going to look like, this is what we're saving, as
We can.
far as these pieces of of,
I don't see
you know,
any
because
issue
I don't
with that.
think.
Yeah, we have
So we talked-
schools and
I think-
information, that we'll have a site plan.
I think the last time Strand came in, they presented, or they included some of that stuff in some of the packets that we've had out, but we can get it again and put it out for people to
I
look at.
just think people would like to see that we did take really a close look at what we had versus what we need
Right.
and what we salvaged or saved that we're working with.
Well, the other thing too, I mean, I realize it's a large number, 43 million is a lot of money, but the other thing that Travis and I have kind of approached this from is neither one of us wants to do this again in our careers.
That's why I looked at
So we want the life of this
expansion.
plant to last a long time. And so we're trying to spend the money now because it's never going to be cheaper than it is today, guaranteed. It's just not. And I know that seems weird, when you're talking about this kind of money, but that's where we are.
Well, and I do like your point about the fact that once we get it up and running, it should bring the cost for, it's kind of like having an old car versus a new car, the amount of gas you use, the upkeep, the buying of the pieces to fix the things that go wrong with it. I think we should see kind of a,
Like I said, it should go down, but this is why we're planning for the higher rates now with what we currently have, because we don't know those projections. I mean,
sure.
Right.
you can hope for the best, but you don't want to plan for the best, and then all of a sudden the worst comes
I
out.
definitely don't want to be back here in 6 months going, well, we need another 10 million.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come sit with you guys.
Well, and that's,
Yeah.
I would expect not to be in this seat very much longer after that if that occurs, so, you know.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
let's-
I appreciate your answering my
Thank you,
questions.
Catherine. All right, well, Brett, do you have
All
something you want
right, this question on the new plant, like what is the lifespan of the plant like this? You know, this last one lasted 50 years. Are we looking at roughly the same? Is it going to be, we've talked about expandable. Is it going to be, how easy is it going to be to refresh it? I know that the current plant with the tanks that we have out there, you don't want to touch them because you can kind of mess up the ecosystem inside of that. Like what was the oxidation ditch and how does that, looking into the future, when we pay this note off, what do we have for plans for future? Or is that something?
well, like anything, you can go back to the car scenario. It's with good maintenance, the longer it's going to last. They give a lifespan. Everything has to be planned. They plan out everything on a 20-year lifespan is how DNR looks at it. As far as funding, I believe they look at on a 20-year. It doesn't mean the plant's going to 20 years. Oh my gosh, it's done. You know, look at this one started in '78. We've had a few projects to keep it going. With, like I said, with anything else, good maintenance. We will have in our CIPs and planning and our operating budget. You know, you might have to do some mechanical parts within the oxidation ditches. Otherwise, they're just a concrete tank, you know, so.
I would expect that, I mean, you know, the plant that we have now was built in '78. We did our first maintenance project on it in '98. That's 20 years. I would expect that in 20 years we'll have to do some sort of project, but it won't be the scale of this. It won't be a $40 million, well, who knows what dollars will be by that point, but I mean, it won't be a large full replacement like this.
I would say if
And I
you
would
see
also-
a very large I mean, the next big project would be because we outgrew it, and that would be a.
Right, another oxidation ditch.
Yes.
And I would also say from the experience that I've seen on the other side of things, it's a lot easier to work on this type of plant than it is to work on what we have right now. And I think I would venture to say it's safer also because like our current plant, that anaerobic process that all happens within a confined space. And for anybody to go in there is really dangerous to go inside of that if we ever had to.
One of the reasons we chose this
Yeah.
particular option. I mean, this is all
Yeah,
things we discussed and obviously had to weigh those options.
right.
In talking with Strand, obviously, we're not professionals, they are, but through the questions we asked them.
I mean, a lot of time on that, what goes bad would be your mechanical parts and stuff, and like this one, significantly less amount of pumps.
You talk, just real quick, too, talk about the difference in disinfection between the two styles of plants.
Okay, currently also, we have a gas chlorine is how we're doing it. The new plant will be UV ditch. So it's pretty much just light bulbs, it's going through a channel and disinfecting it UV.
And the reason I bring that up is because from a safety perspective, chlorine gas is rather dangerous. It can get really, really bad really quick. So that's one of the things that we've looked at as we've gone through this is to try to make it as safe as possible. And we've looked at all those things.
And that's an area we're reusing. We're using the same channels that.
Same structure.
Yeah, chlorinated in now. I mean, they'll pour some concrete, make it so it flows through there. But yes, it'll be, for a safety standpoint, this new plant will be much safer to operate.
Brett, do you have anything else?
I do not.
Yep. Anybody else have anything else?
During our discussions in past, because we know this plant's maxed out as far as what we can put into it as far as sewage and everything. On the new plant that we were talking about, what percent on and above what our consumption is now were we talking on handling for possible future growth in the community? For some reason, I'm thinking this plant's going to be able to handle 15 or 20% more, or was
I remember
that?
talking about that too, but I can't remember what the percentage.
I don't
was.
remember
thought it
the
was-
That goes back to where we want to rate it.
Right.
I don't want to give an exact percentage, I don't know.
Well, for some reason, just 15, 20% sounds
Like
like
I
it's
said, I don't
something
even
that
wanna
get thrown
throw out-
around.
I think,
Hold on, one at a time.
I think the initial rating from them was to try to rate it in that 15 to 20% increase over what we are now, but the plant's capable of much more than that, depending on how you rate it and how you do it.
Okay, so that's where I have the number at then. I thought that number was
That's what my memory
discussed.
says as well, is around that 15% increase over what we have now. You know, we want to allow for growth. I mean, that's one of the things that we're kind of up against the wall on right now, is if somebody came in and said they want to build an industry in town that's going to discharge like what the creamery does, we don't have any capacity to take it. We couldn't at all.
And one more follow-up
Okay, go
before you move around.
Go ahead.
I hope some of the things that the council has talked about and Matt and our sewer plant manager lets you people realize this isn't something that just happened overnight, that we have had a lot of research and stuff going into it, and we have spent a lot of time on this. It's just not something that just appeared. It's just that a lot of the preliminary stuff that is done in advance, everything, that's all in talking stages and stuff, and you don't want to, if you were at the meetings, you would know, or watch the meetings, you would know that we have talked about it, but you can't just put that information out there because you don't have the exacts on it. You got to pinpoint and draw it in closer before you, let everything out.
A lot of it's very technical.
Does that make sense to you people?
Appreciate it.
That makes no sense to you?
No, it's not the fact that we don't want the plant, it is what it is, if it's needed. I think what most of the town, or a lot of the residents are upset about, there was no budgeting back here to allow for what you guys are doing, is how we're kind of feeling.
No,
That
and
there
that's-
was nobody that really set a budget saying, hey, this is coming up, and we know it's coming up, so we need to start raising the rates a little bit each year and bring it forward. We all just kind of feel that it was thrown at us.
And I totally,
Hold on.
I totally,
Okay, go ahead.
I totally understand you saying that. I wasn't here back then,
Okay, but
but what I'm getting at is that is what,
From every city council person has sat back and said, I wasn't here.
yeah.
There's
no,
private records. I went on the online Sunday and at least did a little bit of research to see how far back this has been going on. And that's where I got my information.
Absolutely.
And I would hope that you guys' filing system within the city council is a little bit better than what mine was on Sunday, that whoever wasn't here, that when they come on board, they find out what's going on and start carrying it forward, rather than people sitting back saying, we don't know where the money went. We don't know when this started. We don't know how to get to this point. Well, everybody sitting here has been here for a while, has talked about it, and I think what we're upset about is that at the last minute, we got told, well, here's what you guys are gonna pay. We're sitting back saying, okay, you guys' mind is made up, there's really no listening, but a lot of us chose to come here and listen and have it better explained to us. But I think in the future, for the city, if there's a budget that needs to be in place that's gonna affect us, don't do it at the last minute and then not expect us to not say anything.
So that's, your point is exactly why we included the 3% on the water side, because we know we have water projects that we need to do. And that's the reason that we put that in there, was to try to start accumulating funds to be able to do those projects without having to do a major increase like this.
Yeah, well, this, like I say, I saw the contract was already signed 2 years ago, and this is just brought up now. I understand what you guys are saying. I feel better hearing that it's not on property value, that it's actually on usage, so I'm glad that you guys clarified that.
Sure.
Julie, can I just say one thing? And I want to say this to you, Julia, because I know you talk to a lot of people. This is a we thing. It's not a you this way and a you that way. This is a we thing.
I'm not saying.
Well, I just want to address when you,
I'm just saying, a lot of us are kind of getting a little bit frustrated that there's so much that's being asked of us as residents
when we just had property taxes
Yeah.
raised. I got my bill.
I just got mine today.
Okay, and then all of a sudden the water thing comes up. We're not pointing fingers, we're saying we're frustrated. That's all it is.
Completely understandable.
Totally understandable.
Completely understandable. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you. You've been here many times on different things and voiced your opinion for people who don't want to. So thank you for coming and doing that. I want to make sure everybody understands that we're trying to do this because we have families, homes, businesses, things like that in this community, and we don't look to go anywhere either. We're paying the same as anybody else.
Matt, you had something else?
I mean, the only other thing that I would reiterate is it's at the very beginning of this 2 years ago when it started, it would have been very difficult for this body or anybody to determine what to raise the rates by as far as sewer rates, because we didn't have a construction cost. We didn't know what the plant was going to cost to replace it. We knew it was going to be millions of dollars. And not that they shouldn't have considered that. I'm not saying they shouldn't have, but maybe they should have done a 3% like we're trying to do with the water, or done something like that. Would have helped a little bit, but I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda. That ship's already sailed. So.
Yep.
It truly is hard to do that, to come and say, sorry, Mike. It's difficult to come and say that too, Julie, when we don't have a plan. You know, hey, we know that we're getting to a situation, we're gonna raise taxes by 3%. You can about imagine what they would say, well, what are you doing that for? Well, just because we think we're gonna have to. That's not gonna go over very well either. You know, understandable, and I agree with you 100%, but it's difficult to justify that 3% then to people too by saying, look, we're just forecasting, creating a savings account for something we don't know for sure that's going to happen. You know, so I'm with you.
Okay. Anybody else, council? Okay, move to.
I think that lady in the back has something to say.
Yeah.
Sarah?
I don't mind unless you do.
Nah,
I'm kind of connecting dots here, so.
no problem at all.
Alana Jones, I live in town, southwest line of town. We're already talking about the cost. Is there anything we can do as a local option tax to collect even a little bit to help our regular residents not have the full point? And even if you are collecting that, you're going to have to tack on another 1 or 2% to predict that next 20-year repair.
So we're statutorily, we can't do more than 1% for local option sales tax.
1% helps.
I understand, but that 1% right now, as it currently sits, generates around $890,000, $875,000 a year is what that tax generates right now. If we were to pull that 800 and some odd thousand and use that for this, what do we do with the programs that are being funded by that right now?
What about the WAPSI? Can we use that for electricity to produce some of these projects? I mean, we got the river. Why can't we use hydroelectricity? If you're talking green energy, why don't we use what we have and use some of the?
That would be a great question for ILPT. This is going to sound like I'm shoving it off, and I don't mean it that way at all. I want to make that clear. You and I have gone back and forth a couple times on Facebook, because I'm the guy that's
I have
behind
another
that.
option too. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, not at all. Don't
That's
be
okay.
sorry.
I have a lot of, and then, I mean, even connecting the dots already, you got your EPA coming in to do this other stuff. We just did a questionnaire through ILPT, what our pipes in and pipes out is. Okay, so are we going to get halfway through this program, and if all of a sudden we have to come up and repair all these lines going into our house and out of our house because we just did that questionnaire?
So you're talking about the water service line survey that
Yes.
was put out?
What's going to happen?
That would
to
only occur if your service line was found to be lead, and we still don't know for sure that the federal government is going to make anybody do that. I don't have a good answer for you on that right now, other than to tell you that the whole reason they're doing the survey is to determine how much lead service lines are out there. I would also tell you, I mean, if I owned the house and I found out that my service line to the house was lead, I'd be pretty interested in replacing that, because I don't want to ingest that all the time.
So what if you got a service line warranty anyway? Do they cover?
They're probably not going to cover material composition.
So-
That
Do you see this going to be coming out of our pocket, or say this does happen? Are there grants going to be helping people to replace this that maybe they didn't even know they had?
I would love to tell you that there will be grants out there, but I don't have an answer for that right now either. You had to be speaking on behalf of the feds and what they're going to do, and I can't do that.
How long does it take to hear back from grants? 2 years, 3 years?
It's
What
not-
time, you applied 2 years ago?
No, it was April? I wanna
We had to
say
wait,
April,
we had to wait for a
March.
dollar amount.
I want to say April, May of this
Okay,
year was when
so-
I applied for the first one.
So we had to wait
But
for,
yeah, I mean, that's,
we had to wait for an engineer's estimate first before we could apply for the grants, because they want that information. So
Right.
even though we may have been thinking about it longer than that, we couldn't actually do it until we had an estimate.
you have to remember from the grant their perspective, the people that are giving grants out, they want to know that they're not paying for the whole project. They want to know that they're helping, but they want to know that they're not funding the whole thing. If I'd asked for $40 million, they would have said, well, you don't even have any skin in the game.
What is the average response rate for grants?
I don't have an average for you, unfortunately. It varies all over the place.
There's no like 2-year, 3-year on general average?
It's not that long in terms of when you actually apply, but you're talking about different organizations and different entities. When you're applying to the feds, it's more than if you're applying to the state or if you're applying for some other
Yeah,
type.
the farther you go up, the more difficult it gets in terms of going through that grant process.
So this is called infrastructure that just came more into play when Biden got on, or what? I'm just asking.
I don't have an answer for that either.
So can I just, didn't we talk about this a little bit when we talked about when they redid 150 South and they talked about how many houses were affected by this? Wasn't there just like maybe,
You're talking about lead again?
yes.
Okay. I mean, I'd rather.
So the service
I know, I'm
lines,
sorry.
so the service lines, when we did the 150 project, a lot of those service lines were replaced. Travis, can you tell me, I don't think they went all the way to the house. They just went to the
Thank you.
curb stop.
Okay.
Yeah. So if there's lead from the curb stop to the house, that would be the resident's responsibility.
Okay. But we
Okay.
didn't find much of a problem, is what I.
I don't know how many, do you know off the top of your head, or Brian, I mean, he was here when that happened. Do either of you know how many lead service lines were found when you did the 150 project?
I would say a handful, probably 5 or so. There was only one found.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, sorry, but.
I believe there's only one found from the curb stop to the house, and that resident chose to have their line completely replaced.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
if there's no further discussion on the actual motion that's before the council, yeah, I need a motion to.
I will make a motion.
Well, I have a motion.
Oh, you
and I
have
a
it?
second. So now this is a roll call vote.
I had a motion and a second to table it.
No, I thought we had a motion.
No,
No.
Deb
No, there was no
interrupted and
motion.
made a motion to
Okay.
table it.
All right, so the motion is by Mr.
I make a motion that we go ahead and approve the first reading.
And the second is
Second.
by,
I heard Kathy first.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so then this is a roll call vote, please.
Weber,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Houston is absent. O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Prushader,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Okay, it passes 6-0. Oh, sorry.
One more thing I would say for anybody too, if anybody has questions about any of this, feel free to call me, send me an email, come see me. I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you about it. I put my contact information in the end of the article when it was in the paper as well as online, and I only had one person that came and talked to me. So I would love for anybody that has questions, comments, we need to hear the feedback. That's how this is supposed to work.
And Matt's not a lonely guy, but he does appreciate people coming in and talking to him.
And as
Depends on the day, Brett.
Mr. Moore said, I'm also at large. So anyway, my phone number's on the internet too. So on the city site, if anybody wants to call me, do it. You don't have to just be from a certain ward.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that passed 6-0 then. I'm going to move to item number 12, which is the code amendment. I need a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending the provisions pertaining to sections 35.13 Fire Officials Authority and 35.14 Council Authority. Do I have the motion?
So moved.
And a
Second.
Okay, we passed this last session, and when we did so, we had a typo with regard to the numbers on the
Code.
on the code section itself. So this is just to correct that measure. Is there any discussion further on that?
We're mandated by the state to do this anyway, aren't we?
We are. Okay, so this is a roll call vote then.
Moore,
Yes.
Prushader.
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Next, I'd like to entertain a motion to suspend the statutory rule requiring that an ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting in which it's finally passed. Do I have that motion
For this reading?
for this reading?
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. I would need,
Everybody.
I'd need all 6 of you. So roll call vote.
Prushader,
I'm sorry, I have to ask for clarification. This is to waive the second, third reading?
It is.
Okay.
So that the final reading would be tonight with respect to this mandatory change that we have to do anyway. Okay?
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. So now that we've done that, I need a motion to have, to actually amend the ordinance pertaining to sections 35.13 fire officials and authority and 35.14 council authority
So moved.
for final passage for adoption under Iowa Code 380.3 and to authorize me to sign the ordinance.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second by Catherine. So again, this is a roll call vote.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader.
Yes.
Okay, next we move to item number 13. I need a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution to assess property owners for Chapter 52 mowing of properties failure to comply. First, I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. This is with respect to two properties. It's in your,
It's in our notes.
yeah, it should be one on Terrace Drive and one on Nelson, $250 apiece. So I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion about this? Hearing none. Catherine?
Well, I just had a question about the one individual I don't think is available to take care of their property. How does that work?
Which, Susan, you might be better to answer this one. It's-
Well, I think in general, you're just asking if they can't pay it, what happens, right?
So like, I send them a bill, they have 30 days to pay, they can't pay it, it goes on the property taxes.
Okay.
And then either they pay the county or the property gets sold, it's the new homeowner's responsibility to pay.
Because we would have a lien at that point.
Well, it's not
Kind of.
really a lien, it's just an assessment.
Okay, true assessment.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We've had some discussion. If there's no further discussion, this would be a roll call vote then.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Okay, next we move to item number 14, which is I need a motion to approve the private septic tank installation at 1511 First Street East.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, a second. There was a diagram in your packet with regard to the location of it. Any further discussion with regard to that?
My question is, where that 196.75 feet from the street over to, is that the approximate vicinity where they plan on placing that? Or where is the placement exactly?
So the
That
building on that parcel, there's your north building that's up by First Street, and then your southern building that both run the same direction. The
Correct.
south building on the very south end is where they would be putting in the restroom facility. And then just south of that in the parking lot area, kind of there where there's other materials stored there right now, is where the septic system would go.
Okay.
It's important to note, it's really hard to see on an aerial, but that's downhill from the other building. And so if we were to ask them to not do the septic system, they would be required to put in some sort of grinder pump type system and pump it uphill to get it to their property where they could then get back out to tie on to that's 14th Avenue Southeast. Because where that 196.75 goes across, they'd have to cross somebody else's property or get an easement from somebody else in order to
Right.
go through there. And our code specifically says that if it requires gravity, we will waive and let them do a septic. If it requires a pump, it can't be done via gravity.
Yep.
And just for clarification, this is the Buchanan County Secondary Roads Building, correct?
Yes.
Any further discussion with respect to that? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote then.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Next we move to reports. Brett, start with you. Anything?
I have nothing, Mayor.
Deb?
Just on our work session, I'd like to see about prioritizing some of our projects that we have coming up. That's it. That's it.
Anything in particular?
Yeah, the ones I kind of mentioned, our sewer rates we just did, our property taxes, our EMS service, our fire station, premium foods. They threw in their lead pipes, if that's going to cost us.
Okay. Matt, you got those?
Just
Can
things,
I just get a copy of that?
just things on our budget that we want to spend money on.
Okay.
Thanks.
We can kind of talk
Nothing
through
at
that.
this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Drive careful, school started.
I did use the new inclusive park with my grandson the other day.
Oh.
Lots of good responses from the people who were there at the same time, and it is a very, very nice very nice place.
And it seems to be,
Everybody-
it seems to be really popular. I
It's
hardly
very
ever drive
popular.
by there and don't see someone there.
Very popular place, and it's just kind of nice. There's a lot of, there's that, but then there's other stuff around it too. So I did have some people talking with me about parking, wondering if maybe there could be a parking committee to look at some of our issues. I said, I don't know if we've ever talked about that. Then they also talked about that in the past, there was a letter from, I think from the mayor, discussing, sent out to all the businesses, asking them to park so that it's not taking up customer spots.
I don't think,
Talking about downtown or where you?
Downtown, I'm sorry.
and we haven't done that specifically in terms of, I haven't signed a letter anyway.
No, this has been done years ago, is what I was told. So I just said I would pass that on. I know we can't do anything at this point, but just something to think about. And then also, I had a question, somebody asked me about the 150 South. County came in and cleaned up somewhat, but said they couldn't do some of it till the fall. Are they planning to come back and do a little better cleanup on 150 South, as you're coming into town, kind of all that overgrowth area?
They've cleaned everything up except for the empty lot.
Okay.
That's there just north of Norby's. And as I understand it, I don't think they have any plans to do anything further with that at this
Okay.
point.
It kind of still looks kind of bad. It's too bad that they couldn't make that look a little nicer.
Okay. I don't know if anybody noticed or not, but in the Bulletin Journal and also on Facebook, I had a post talking about all the various different departments and giving you statistics in terms of what they do and how they do it, and information about that. So if you haven't looked at that and you're interested in it, it's on the mayor Facebook page, and it's also in the Bulletin Journal from last Saturday, right, John? Okay,
Yeah, it was Saturday's paper. It was a very good article, Mayor.
thank you. That?
Two things. So George Lake has been working on the dock, the accessible fishing pier down here at Triangle Park. The city's portion of that was to do a $10,000 in-kind, basically, where our crews would go out and build a ramp down to that dock. We've looked at that, and the slopes there are significant enough that we feel like we need to engage Crawford to help us kind of do some design on that and look at that. We want to make sure that we're meeting ADA requirements. Obviously, we don't want to build a ramp that doesn't meet ADA requirements to a dock that's supposed to be ADA accessible. That seems counterintuitive. So I've reached out to Brian. Brian's working on getting me a proposal about what that would cost to have them help us with that. Just wanted to let everybody know that I have asked for that. And then the police department, Officer Dilly announced his resignation last Friday, and we've started the replacement process on that and advertised internally. We'll start advertising externally soon as well. So just want to let everybody know.
And then one more thing that I have.
One more too, but
Go ahead. You can do yours first.
I just thought of the third thing. Later this week, Thursday, Friday, maybe even Wednesday, I'm going to take some time off. September, the Labor Day weekend, I'm going to spend some time with the family. So just want to let everybody know. I'll let you know more specifically which days I'm not going to be in the office.
The other thing, we've had some conversations about this, but I want to give you kind of an update on it. We're trying to figure out the best place to put some type of a memorial park for Bob Hill. And we're looking at the space that's across from the bank, the vacant corner that's there. We've had some issues about whether or not, because of what was there previously and the construction there, when that was taken down, are we still able to get some kind of posts in for the type of, what's the right? Thank you. What did we put in there, some kind of a?
The gazebo?
Oh, gazebo, yeah. So gazebo there. And so we have actually retained the services of Crawford for the purposes of going in and determining whether it's feasible to put some type of posts there to be able to support the structure. So that's what we're looking at.
We, the city, or?
I don't know who hired them. I believe that Audrey Hill hired them herself, but I know that Mark is looking into it right now, and I know that.
Is that going to cause problems with vision of that corner?
No, it'd be far enough back. It'd be behind the flags.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be far enough back.
That's kind of a bad corner anyway.
It's set back pretty far.
We'd still put our tree there at Christmas time, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do it a little bit differently. That's been discussed as well, and I think that, I think it's Bob's family is contributing the majority of the money toward it, so we're going to do whatever we can to make this work out.
That's another one where we're doing some in-kind stuff, where our guys will do some labor and some things
Is
like
that just for Bob Hill or is it for all mayors?
This is a Bob Hill Memorial Park, since his family's the one that's contributing the money toward it. Okay, and I don't have anything further. Dave, did you have anything?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Your Honor, thank you, I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Travis, yeah.
Travis.
Kind of got touch base on just a little bit there, but the lead service line, I just want to, if anybody asks, we're still taking those surveys. It is known, it is come from the federal level, the EPA, we are required to do this. It isn't something we did just by choice. All homes are required. I've heard a couple comments about newer homes and stuff. They are requiring every service line that the city has to be inventoried, so it is important for everybody to fill that out. We had a decent response at first, but I'd say we're only at probably 30-some%. I need to be at least 80% by October 16th, so.
Wow.
Yeah,
Do we need to
any
shoot something
cooperation would be greatly appreciated.
Every individual property in town that had not replied at the time we mailed it out received a mailer, an actual paper flyer.
Yeah.
I don't know how we.
I'll probably have
How
to
we
send another
notify
one
them
out.
of
I did hear some people thought it was junk mail or possibly the water sewer line
Warranty
insurance that had gotten sent out in the past, so I think I don't even know if they opened it, some people. So if we do have to send another one, which I'm sure we will, otherwise we'll have to think alternate ways. I don't know, like door knocking. I don't know what we'll have to do, but
How did you end up doing the last one we did about the changing the meters?
that was the same thing. They got notices. We went through a company and they ended up going through and door knocking to see if people were home and whatnot.
We paid a contractor, a company
Yes,
to
we
do
did.
that.
Now, the Bulletin Journal has already had an article, at least one article on it that I've seen, right, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one article.
At least one
Yes.
I've seen.
Yes.
Would it be worthwhile to try another one there?
We might have to, and then social media or another letter. Like I said, if anybody watching or if anybody here talks to somebody and they get a letter, like I said, it is very important that we get that done.
Travis, did you say the government's requiring it by October?
October 16th, and yes, it has to be a majority of the way done. And like we said earlier, this is just an inventory. They're requiring an inventory. There are lots of steps to it. They haven't announced the next step. I don't know, could be in a year, could be in 5 years, 10 years. I have no idea on that. As far as answers for that, there's no way of getting answers in that. Even talking with the local office as far as DNR, they don't know because they get directed from higher up in the EPA. And then it trickles down to each
It's a very,
individual city.
it's a very easy process to fill that out and get it to us. There's an electronic option where you can just do it right on your phone. You can snap a picture of your water meter and upload it, and you're done. That's all you got to do. I know when we first sent them out, we had a lot of people bringing paper copies in, which is great too.
Yeah, but yeah, if you can do the QR code or have a smartphone and can get a picture, that's the best way. We're more than happy to come out and help anybody. I know we made after we mailed it out, the first few days, we're just pretty much running around taking them, but don't be afraid to call. I mean, it's appreciated if we need to get it done, so. Yeah, that's.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Stand adjourned.
Right.